I'm delighted to be coming back to Riga. I have very happy memories of previous visits before the last time for the Vitols competition, and also other visits that I've made to Riga, and I've always had a great pleasure in going. It's a city with a great pianistic tradition culture, great musical tradition culture, and there's a great feeling of the central importance of music, which is rarer in many cities in the world now, and I think is still very strong in Riga, and it's always very inspiring to experience that. I think I still have strong memories of the music of Vitols that I heard last time in the competition. I liked it very much. I think it shows tremendous sense of culture and sophistication in the writing. You can hear both these influences that he himself experienced from previous composers and the influence he obviously gave to later composers. And I think also it has a voice and a kind of flavour of its own, and its music is capable of both. There is enormous elegance and charm in it, as well as great drama and intensity at times. It's music, I think, of a great range, and I think the competition is right to keep a very central element of having Vitols music celebrated within the competition. It's important. The musical world is developing all the time and changing. Certain things never change. The necessity of quality, the necessity for integrity, the necessity for creativity, for having something to say. And of course, young musicians, young performers have always needed to have these qualities, plus they need to have persistence, and they need to have patience, and they need to have dedication, and these things are very easy to say, and sometimes they demand a lot. In terms of the role of competitions, there are increasingly more competitions, which is not necessarily a bad thing when people approach them in the right spirit and use them as the opportunity for, not just for performance experience, but for really bringing themselves to a peak of preparation. Of course, they also provide for great opportunities for interaction, for meeting your international colleagues, for being able to encounter other outlooks and influences. I think the vast majority of competitors in the vast majority of competitions, in my experience, do approach this with a very positive sense of how to get the best out of a competition. Of course, it's absolutely natural going in for a competition. One of your aims and desires would be to be successful in it and to win a prize. There's nothing wrong with that. But equally, one always has to remember that there will be, I know right now, before the Vitols competition begins, there will be many fine competitions in it and only a very limited number of prizes that can be given. So it's inevitably the one part of being on a competition jury that no musician enjoys is to not be, the fact that we're not always able to give prizes to people we really think should be recognised. And that's not just to be nice and kind to people, it's because we hear genuine talent that deserves recognition. It's a big act of preparation for these competitions, and of course it's not always possible in that way. But fundamentally, the culture of competitions, if approached in the right way, can still be very valuable and beneficial in all sorts of ways to preparing your life as a professional performer. One of the most important elements for these serious competitions is the performing opportunity that they can provide, particularly concerto opportunity, which of course is often rarer to have as a young performer. And it's particularly important because concertos are not the same as recitals, and you need to be aware of certain aspects of performance that need to be particularly heightened in concerto playing. One thing I would say to any performer coming to the finals of a competition where they're going to play a concerto is really think about the elements of concerto playing, because sometimes people play very, very well, and then when they play with orchestra, they don't show enough awareness of the difference. Of course, you have to know the orchestral score, you have to know the whole piece, but also in terms of how you project yourself, what elements of playing and sound become more and more important in a concerto in a different way to a recital. So I think it's very important that people are really preparing for the proper experience, and even if they have not so much real experience of playing with orchestra, if in their study and preparation they have really included this serious awareness that they are not simply playing on their own, then that can help a great deal, I think. The three pianists you name are all extremely talented performers, and extremely different, which is, I think, very important. With regard to my own students, I would always be not happy if I thought that my students sounded in particular ways similar to each other. I take great pleasure and pride in them as individuals. You can only be successful in the very broadest sense of the word in music and in life if you are yourself and have a sense of how to express truly yourself, not just, you can't express someone else on stage, it has to be yourself. And so the way the sound you produce, the repertoire you play, everything about that has to be something that feels natural for you. These young pianists, I think, epitomize a kind of both seriousness and joy in playing, that they understand that you have to have a level of command and a level of concentration, but also you have to have an element of creativity and liberation and something to express, and, as I say, real joy in the art of communicating music. This is very important. I think they do that, and in that sense they are very typical of the best of a wonderful generation of young players.